Your life doesn't change when people notice you. It changes the day you finally decide to notice yourself. If you're tired of feeling behind, if you've been giving your time, energy and attention to everything except your own growth, it's time to stop and rebuild. This isn't about anyone else. This is about you. Rebuild yourself. Let your focus be on you every day is not a motivational slogan. It's a serious commitment to finally take full control of your life. Every single day you have two choices: focus on what's missing or focus on what you can fix. This audiobook is here to show you how to make yourself the priority again, through action, not just talk. Real confidence, real clarity, real progress. No more waiting. No more excuses. If you've been drifting, distracted, or doubting yourself, this is your moment to reset everything. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to start focusing on the one thing you've ignored too long: you. Chapter 1. Start paying attention to how you treat yourself. You have to start paying attention to how you treat yourself. That's the beginning of everything. That's the foundation of your entire life. Because if you don't care about how you treat yourself, you'll eventually accept anything from anyone. You'll allow poor standards, you'll tolerate being overlooked, and you'll stay stuck in situations that don't reflect your real value. Most people are not failing because of a lack of talent or opportunity. They're failing because they don't treat themselves like they matter. When you get up in the morning, the first decision you make is already shaping the way you treat yourself. If you hit the snooze button again and again, you're sending yourself a message. That message says, my goals don't matter. My time doesn't matter. I don't matter enough to get up and move. You've got to take a closer look at those small choices, because they're not as small as they look. They're shaping your self-respect, and self-respect is not built on what you say, it's built on what you do every single day. Start asking yourself, would I treat a friend the way I treat myself? If a friend made a mistake, would you talk down to them the way you talk down to yourself? If a friend had a dream, would you laugh at it, doubt it, criticize it the way you criticize yours? Probably not. So why do you keep doing that to yourself? You have to build a relationship with yourself that's honest but kind. If you're always harsh with yourself, if you beat yourself up for every shortcoming, eventually you lose the energy to keep going. That's why people quit, not because it's too hard, but because they feel too small inside. They feel like they don't deserve more. They feel like they're not enough to reach higher. And that's the most dangerous belief a person can hold. If you want to rebuild yourself, you have to change the way you treat the person in the mirror. That means you start keeping your word to yourself. If you say you're going to do something, do it, even if nobody sees it, even if nobody claps for you. You have to matter to you first. That's where confidence comes from. That's where dignity comes from. Not from what you own, not from what others say, but from knowing you're building yourself brick by brick because you said you would. Most people are waiting for someone else to believe in them. They want someone to see their value, but you can't wait for that. You can't wait for applause. You can't wait for permission. You got to decide, I believe in myself enough to show up for myself every day. If you don't give yourself that belief, life gets very heavy. You carry regrets, you carry guilt, you carry broken promises, and that weight slows you down. Treat yourself like a builder would treat a project they care about. Would a builder ignore the cracks? Would a builder skip important steps? No. They'd show up daily. They'd work on it piece by piece. They'd stay focused. That's what you've got to do with your mind, your habits, your time. Treat your life like it matters, because it does. Think about how you speak to yourself when you fail. Do you encourage yourself to keep going, or do you use that as a reason to give up? Too many people are walking around with a voice inside that constantly tells them they're not enough. That voice was shaped by years of neglect, broken promises, maybe even trauma. But here's the truth. You can rebuild that voice. You can choose a better internal dialogue. You can speak truth to yourself, not just criticism. And no, I'm not saying to sugarcoat things. I'm not saying to pretend everything is okay when it's not. But there's a difference between being honest with yourself and being cruel. Being honest means taking responsibility. Being cruel means tearing yourself down with no plan to build back up. You've got to tell yourself the truth and then do something with it. Yes, I've been wasting time. Yes, I've been distracted. Yes, I've let myself go, but now I'm choosing differently, starting today, starting now. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. You're undoing years of patterns, years of believing you didn't matter. But every time you make a small change in how you treat yourself, you start rewriting that pattern. You stop giving away your power. You stop settling for less. You stop living like a shadow of yourself. You know what happens when you start treating yourself better? Other people notice. Your energy changes, your tone changes, your boundaries get clearer. You stop accepting disrespect. You stop making excuses. You start making moves. And the world responds to that. Because the world treats you how you treat you. You set the tone. Some people don't realize that the way they talk to themselves in private is the reason they stay stuck. They call themselves lazy, dumb, worthless, behind, and they say it so often it becomes their reality. You've got to interrupt that cycle. You've got to catch yourself in the act and say, no, I don't talk to myself that way anymore. I'm not perfect, but I'm improving. I'm working. I'm learning. If you had a child and you spoke to them the way you speak to yourself, would they grow up confident? Would they grow up healthy? Would they go after big dreams? Probably not. So be the parent to yourself that you never had. Be the voice of reason, the voice of strength, the voice of encouragement. Because no one else can give that to you, not in a lasting way. You have to become that for yourself. Start treating your health like it matters. Start treating your time like it matters. Start treating your choices like they matter, because they do. Every decision you make is casting a vote for the person you're becoming, and when you cast enough votes, you change your life. This isn't about motivation. Motivation fades. This is about self-respect. When you respect yourself, you don't need hype. You don't need someone chasing you to get things done. You move because you've decided that your future matters more than your comfort. You're not rebuilding to impress anyone. You're not doing this to prove anything. You're doing this because you finally realize you deserve more. You've spent enough time doubting. You've spent enough time waiting. Now it's time to act. You don't need another wake-up call. This is it. The way you treat yourself today will show up in who you are tomorrow. So start now. Pay attention. Pay attention to your words. Pay attention to your choices. Pay attention to your reactions. The world outside may be loud, but your focus must stay on you. Not selfishly, but honestly. Because you can't give your best to anyone else until you've given your best to yourself first. You don't have to rebuild everything in one day, but you do have to start, and it starts with how you treat yourself. Every hour, every moment, every thought. Treat yourself like someone worth building, because you are. Chapter 2. Let go of people who drain your energy. One of the hardest but most important things you'll ever do in life is walk away from people who drain your energy. And I mean people who take more than they give. People who leave you feeling exhausted after every conversation. People who don't support your growth, don't respect your time, and don't care about the direction you're trying to take your life in. If you want to rebuild yourself, you need to protect your energy like your future depends on it, because it does. Most people stay stuck not because they don't have potential, not because they lack the drive, but because they're surrounded by the wrong voices. People who doubt them, people who bring drama, people who make everything about themselves. You cannot rise when you're tied to what's pulling you down. No matter how strong your mindset is, if you're surrounded by the wrong people, they will weaken you over time. Even if it's not obvious right away, it chips away at your self-belief, your motivation, your peace. You don't owe access to anyone who consistently makes you feel less than. You don't owe your time to people who only show up when they need something. And you certainly don't owe your energy to those who belittle your dreams, question your goals, or mock your growth. The truth is, some relationships have already served their purpose. They taught you something, they helped you learn, but now you've outgrown the version of yourself that stayed small to keep them comfortable. Too many people feel guilty for wanting peace. They stay in draining relationships out of habit, out of fear, or because they're afraid to be alone. But the cost of keeping the wrong people around is far greater than the discomfort of walking away. You end up sacrificing your focus, your health, your confidence. And for what? For people who wouldn't do the same for you? Pay close attention to how you feel after you've been around someone. Do you feel motivated, seen, respected? Or do you feel tired, confused, and small? Your body and your mind always know. But if you ignore those signals long enough, you'll start thinking the chaos is normal. It's not. You deserve to be around people who help you breathe easier, not those who make you feel like you're suffocating. Rebuilding yourself requires space to think, to feel, to grow. If you're constantly managing someone else's emotions, carrying their problems, or shrinking to avoid conflict, then you're not building, you're surviving. And survival is not enough. You weren't born to live in reaction to other people's issues. You were born to create something meaningful with your life. And you can't do that when your energy is constantly being hijacked by people who have no intention of changing. The first step is getting honest. Who in your life brings stress, anxiety, or tension every time they show up? Who dismisses your goals or mocks your efforts when you try to improve? Who makes everything about them, even when you're going through something? These people might not be evil, but they are draining, and your loyalty to them should never be greater than your responsibility to yourself. You don't have to hate anyone to outgrow them. You don't have to cause drama, but you do have to draw a line. You do have to recognize that the energy you spend trying to manage unhealthy relationships is energy that could be invested in your goals, your peace, your personal growth. Every moment you spend explaining yourself to someone who refuses to understand you is a moment you could have used building your future. Stop trying to convince people who don't get you. Stop bending over backward to fit into places you've already outgrown. When you rebuild yourself, not everyone will clap for you. Some will feel threatened. Some will try to pull you back to who you used to be. That's not your problem. Your job is to keep moving forward. Your job is to stay committed to your healing, your clarity, and your progress. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is silence. Not every goodbye has to be loud. Not every ending needs to be explained. You just start showing up differently. You stop entertaining conversations that go nowhere. You stop giving second chances to people who proved they don't value your presence. You stop explaining your worth to people who act like it's negotiable. It's not easy at first. When you cut off draining people, you might feel guilt, you might feel lonely, you might question yourself. That's normal. You're letting go of familiar patterns, even if they were unhealthy. But over time, you'll realize that peace is better than chaos. That real friends don't drain you, they support you. That being alone is better than being surrounded by people who don't care about your growth. You can love someone and still not want them in your life. You can wish them well and still move on. Letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means you've grown. It means you value your energy enough to stop wasting it. It means you're finally choosing yourself, and that choice will change everything. When you remove draining people, you start to feel lighter. Your thoughts get clearer, your motivation returns, you sleep better, you think deeper, and most importantly, you start hearing your own voice again, the voice that wants more, the voice that believes in you, the voice that tells you it's okay to protect your peace. Don't make excuses for people who keep showing you who they are. Don't hold on to people just because you have history with them. The past is a place of learning, not living. If someone is draining you, it doesn't matter how long you've known them. What matters is how they treat you now and how you feel when they're around. Your energy is one of the most valuable things you own. Where it goes, your life follows. So be intentional with it. Give it to people who inspire you, challenge you to grow, and want to see you win. Give it to places that help you heal, not to environments that feed your doubts. Give it to habits that build you up, not to people who keep tearing you down. This isn't about cutting off everyone at the first sign of conflict. Real relationships take effort, but effort goes both ways. Respect goes both ways. Support goes both ways. If you're always the one giving, always the one adjusting, always the one caring, then that's not a relationship, it's emotional labor. And you can't rebuild yourself while carrying someone else's weight on your back every day. You don't need a big circle, you need a solid one. A few people who genuinely care. A few people who hold you accountable. A few people who help you stay grounded. The rest is noise. The rest is a distraction. So today, take a deep look at your connections. Be honest with yourself. Ask, is this person helping me grow or pulling me backward? Then act accordingly. You don't need to announce it, you don't need to explain it. Just make the shift. Your future deserves people who pour into you, not people who drain you. And most importantly, remember this. You are not difficult for protecting your peace. You are not selfish for choosing your well-being. You are not wrong for stepping away from what hurts your spirit. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's clarity. That's maturity. You're not rebuilding just to stay the same. You're rebuilding to become someone stronger, wiser, calmer. And that version of you cannot be reached by holding on to what no longer serves you. Start today. Let go. And free yourself. Chapter 3. Choose small wins instead of chasing perfection daily. Perfection is a trap. It looks good from the outside, but it ruins progress from the inside. You start thinking you need to do everything right the first time. You want every move to be flawless, every goal to be huge, every outcome to look impressive. But while you wait to feel perfect, life keeps passing, and you end up doing nothing at all. That's why the smartest decision you can make is to stop chasing perfection and start choosing small wins every single day. Perfection demands everything at once. Small wins demand effort, and effort is what creates change. When you focus on small wins, you start moving. You stop waiting for the perfect day or the perfect mood. You stop planning endlessly. You get out of your head and into your life. That's when things begin to shift. Not in some loud, dramatic way, but in quiet, consistent actions that build real momentum. The people who grow are not always the most talented. They're not the most experienced. They're the ones who show up daily and stack small improvements. They do the workout even when it's short. They read 5 pages instead of none. They eat 1 clean meal instead of giving up after 1 bad one. They make the call even if they're nervous. That's a small win, and small wins matter more than people think. When you chase perfection, you feel overwhelmed. You think if you can't do it perfectly, you shouldn't even try. That mindset kills progress. It stops people before they even begin. But when you give yourself permission to win small, suddenly the pressure goes down and the action goes up. You stop saying, I have to do it all today, and start saying, I'm going to do something today. That difference changes everything. You see, the brain responds to success, even tiny success. Every time you complete something, you build trust with yourself. You prove to yourself that you follow through. That builds internal strength. And that strength carries into the next task, the next day, the next level of your life. But when you aim for perfection and fall short, which most people do, you feel like a failure. You feel behind. You lose belief. That's how people fall into cycles of giving up, not because they're lazy, but because they're chasing a version of progress that doesn't exist. Life doesn't work like a highlight reel. It works like a staircase, and you can't jump to the top. You take 1 step, then another. That's how everything is built. Your skills, your health, your mindset, your habits. Nothing is created overnight. But when you look at other people's success, you only see the result. You don't see the hundreds of small steps they took, the late nights, the early mornings, the quiet sacrifices. You only see the end, and you think you're supposed to get there in a straight line, but nobody does. You have to give yourself permission to build slow, to make mistakes, to grow at your own pace. The only thing you need to do every day is move forward. That's it. Even if it's just a little, even if no one claps for it, even if no one notices but you, that small win is still a win. It still counts, and it still gets you closer. A lot of people are stuck because they've been taught to wait until things feel right. They think action should follow motivation, but real growth works the other way. Action creates motivation. You don't feel like doing something until you start doing it. And once you see a result, any result, you feel pulled to keep going. That's the power of choosing small wins. They keep you moving. And when you move, you start to believe again. Progress is built in the little choices. Waking up when you said you would, saying no to something that doesn't help you. Being kind when you want to complain. Pushing yourself to finish when it would be easier to quit. These are not big, flashy achievements, but they build a strong, focused, disciplined life. They shape who you become. And who you become matters more than any perfect outcome. Perfection is not only unrealistic, it's unforgiving. It doesn't allow space for mistakes. It doesn't let you be human. But rebuilding yourself requires grace. You will slip. You will fall short. You will have off days. That's part of the process. The key is to not let those moments erase your progress. If you fall, you don't go back to the start. You stand where you are and keep going. That mindset alone puts you ahead of most people. You've got to be okay with not being perfect. You've got to be okay with growing in the middle of the mess, because if you wait for the conditions to be ideal, you'll be waiting your whole life. Life won't slow down for you to catch up. You have to decide to move anyway. You have to decide that today matters, even if it's not your best day. You have to decide that your future is worth the effort, even when the progress is slow. What small win can you choose today? That's the question that needs to guide you. Not, how can I be perfect, but what can I do right now that pushes me forward? Maybe it's writing for 10 minutes. Maybe it's cleaning one corner of the room. Maybe it's going for a quick walk. Maybe it's having one difficult conversation. These things look small, but they're powerful. They build character, they create rhythm, and rhythm leads to consistency. That's where success is created. You've got to build a habit of finishing things, even small things, because finishing builds confidence. It teaches your mind to trust your actions. That's why a completed small task is more valuable than a perfect task that never gets done. Perfection often leads to procrastination. Small wins lead to execution, and execution is where transformation lives. You don't need a breakthrough every day. You don't need to impress anyone. You don't need to go viral. What you need is progress you can repeat. That's what makes a new life. That's what rebuilds your mindset. Not big declarations, not waiting for inspiration. Just choosing to do something today that your future self will thank you for. The reason this approach works is because it builds identity. Every small win tells you something about yourself. It says, I'm disciplined. It says, I finish what I start. It says, I take responsibility for my life. These quiet statements are far more important than chasing external validation, because when you believe in yourself from the inside, the outside starts to shift. People treat you differently. Opportunities find you. But most of all, you become someone you're proud of. Don't wait for a perfect time to begin. Don't wait for everything to line up. Don't wait until you feel ready. That delay is costing you more than you think. You're not behind. You're not broken. You just need to shift your focus from perfect outcomes to real, reachable actions, from big dreams that paralyze you to small wins that empower you. Start with what you have, where you are, use what you know, do what you can, and then do it again tomorrow and the next day. That's how you build a new standard. That's how you rebuild your life, one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one win at a time. Chapter 4. Say no more often and mean it fully. One of the most powerful ways to rebuild your life is learning to say no, not just whispering it, not saying it with hesitation, but saying it clearly, calmly, and meaning it fully. The word no might seem small, but the strength behind it can change everything. If you say yes to everything, you leave yourself with nothing. No energy, no time, no focus. You end up living by everyone else's priorities and never your own. People lose years of their lives because they didn't want to disappoint others. They agreed to things they didn't want to do. They stayed longer than they should. They gave when they had nothing left. Not because they were weak, but because they never learned how to protect themselves with a firm and respectful no. Rebuilding yourself means you stop giving easy access to people, events, or obligations that drain you. You are not here to live your entire life trying to keep everyone happy while silently falling apart. It starts by being honest with yourself. Ask, am I doing this because I truly want to or because I feel pressured to say yes? That simple question can expose how often you say yes to avoid conflict, guilt, or awkwardness. But in doing that, you end up with resentment. And resentment is a sign you abandoned your own needs to please someone else. No is not rude. No is not mean. No is not selfish. No is necessary. It creates space for the things that actually matter. It allows you to be intentional with your time, your energy, and your commitments. Every time you say yes to something you don't want to do, you're saying no to something you do want. Your goals, your peace, your growth. Some people say yes because they're afraid they'll lose relationships, but real relationships can handle boundaries. If someone walks away because you said no, They were never really with you. They were with the version of you that always agreed, the version of you that never pushed back. But that version is tired now. That version is ready to live with purpose, not pressure. The truth is, people will test your no. They'll question it. They'll try to change your mind. That's where your strength is tested. Don't explain more than you need to. Don't apologize for prioritizing yourself. You don't have to give a detailed reason. No, I'm not available. That's enough. You are allowed to say no and keep your peace. You are allowed to choose your mental health over someone else's convenience. Rebuilding your life also means rebuilding your standards. If you let people walk over your time and boundaries, don't be surprised when they keep doing it. But the moment you start saying no, with clarity, you shift the dynamic. You show people how to treat you. You show yourself that you're no longer available for everything that doesn't serve your future. You'll be tempted to over-explain, to soften the blow. But the more you try to please everyone, the more you lose yourself. Some of the most successful, grounded people you'll ever meet are the ones who mastered the art of saying no. Not with anger, not with arrogance, but with a calm and steady voice that says, "I'm not doing that anymore." People often ask, but what if I feel bad? You probably will at first, especially if you've spent your life being the one who always says yes. But feeling guilty for choosing yourself is something you have to unlearn. You're not responsible for how someone feels about your decision, especially when your decision is based on protecting your own peace and priorities. Saying no also teaches you discipline. It keeps you from being pulled into things that don't align with your goals. It helps you stay focused on what you're building. You can't grow if you're constantly distracted, and distraction doesn't always look chaotic. Sometimes it looks like a friend who wants to hang out when you planned to work. Sometimes it's a task that looks good on paper but pulls you away from your core purpose. Every time you say no to what doesn't matter, you say yes to what does. Start with the small no, the one that feels slightly uncomfortable, the one that makes you hesitate. But once you say it and feel the relief afterward,